Hi, I'm D. I review rums, and this is 1833. What's going on with people? What's going on? So, I was going to do a review today, but I'm not reviewing anything. I wanted to talk to you. And you're probably wondering why I haven't got rum in front of me. Like, I'm drinking this, but I'm doing a Jamaican coffee or a Caribbean coffee. You know, Irish coffee is coffee with whiskey, whereas this is coffee with a bit of rum in it. Reason why I'm doing that, because it's bloody early in the morning. It's not even 9 o'clock yet. So I wanted to talk to you. A couple of things. So the Premier League season's started. United played last night. They beat Fulham. Arsenal playing later today. I want to say they have. By the time you see this, I should probably put out before they play. So I want Arsenal to win that game, obviously. Cool. But what I really wanted to talk to you about is what's been happening in the UK over the past couple of weeks. It's all died down now, so I thought it was a good time to sort of just talk to you and really ask the question, or try to answer the question: is England safe for non-white people? Is England safe for people of colour? And so I wanted to say, look, in my lifetime, I've lived through. I was trying to think about it before I talk to you, and I think I can count including this one now, 4 significant race-related riots. Actually, so 4 riots, I would say, a number of disturbances, and then if you add the Black Lives Matter protests that happened over a while. But I've lived through, let's say, 4 significant race riots in my lifetime. That's not a question, I'm just putting it out there. And I was putting out there as well, when people often ask me, or when we talk to people, and I want to leave the UK. I've had enough. And not because of this specifically, but I feel like I've completed it. I feel and I believe that there are definitely places in this world that are worse to live in than the UK, London specifically. But they're also better, and I want better. And so I think I've been here long enough. I want to try something new, go somewhere better. But always in the back of my mind, and this was linked to the fact that I've lived through a couple of race riots, that I've always felt that I was born here, but I'm not from here. So again, I was born here, but I never ever felt that I was from here. And it's funny because I meet people who don't feel that same way. So to make it clear, just to help understand, both my parents were born abroad, so I'm first gen. So, and I always see my mom's an island girl, and I always tease her that because she thinks she's from the island still. So I always tease her. She lived in the UK longer than I've been live in the UK. She doesn't like that. to always tell her she's more British than I am. Even though her heart and her roots are back in the Caribbean. And I know there were a number of people, and I'm going to say this, it's going to sound a bit sad, but when I have this conversation with some African brothers and sisters, they don't feel the same way. They feel that UK is there. A lot of them, not everyone, a lot of them feel that UK is their home. They were born here, from here, and they love it here. I always find that sad because I always feel that my home, my spiritual roots are somewhere else. And I've always had that, especially as I've gotten older. I've always felt more of a draw to go back to the Caribbean, to go out there. So much so, and again it links back to the race riots because I felt that way because I never really felt comfortable here because of the riots. Maybe because I've always thought to myself, when they're ready to say to me, go back to where you come from, I want to have that escape plan. So I'm working on that escape plan. I'm working on that plan B or plan C that says, when they say, get back on your burner boat, I'll be like, give me some money firstly, and I'll happily go. I'm not going empty-handed. Give me some money and I'll happily go. And I'll have somewhere to go to. So I'm working on that, having somewhere to go to part at the moment. So back to the looping back. Is the UK safe for people of colour? I think if you live in a big city like London, it has its problems. Everywhere has problems, but I think on the whole you're okay because you're surrounded by people of colour. There are some places in the country where I wouldn't feel safe because I stand out like a sore thumb. I remember one time I went to Stoke. No, I got one of my old managers of Stoke, and she said, "Come." She lived in this, had this little big converted farm. Actually, like, come spend a weekend with me and my family. It was lovely up there. She's a really nice woman. But the first time I went to Stoke, that wasn't the first time. The first time I ever went to Stoke, I went to this, walked to this little. It was a work dinner. We walked into this little pub, and it was one of those moments where, you know, when everyone just stops. You know when you hear like you watch some of those old programs and the record goes that scratches and everything just freezes. It was that moment. It felt like that. Very much. It probably didn't happen, but we walked in this little old pub. It felt like everyone just stopped, looked up, and just looked at us. And there was like a couple of black guys to work to. I was like, oh, I just felt odd. So there are places like that in the UK where you walk in and around, and you are going to stand out. And obviously, there are places like that in the world. There's a place like that in the world for sure. So the point is, if you're in London, you'll be okay. Certain places in the UK, you probably stand out a bit more. I probably have more trouble because not you've seen black people around or people of colour around. I think, is the UK safe? I think on the whole you're okay. I think what the British are good at, what the British are good at they are good at doing things a bit, they're good at sleight of hand. So you don't always see things, you don't always experience things directly and overtly, but there are things underneath that will cause you problems or make life difficult for you. That's one thing that differs between us and the Americans. I think the Americans are a bit more blatant, more obvious about certain things. I think it's British nature to be a bit more sly, a bit two-faced, a bit passive-aggressive about things. I'm going to keep bouncing back to this question. So I'm thinking when I'm speaking to you. These are not complete thoughts. Is the UK safe for non-black, non-whites? I think also when it comes to things like policing and perception of non-whites, I think our television culture and our news media go a long way. And some things are more obvious than others. They'll do sly things, but some of the more obvious to me things are when you hear a news report, when you see headlines on the paper. So most people don't read newspapers. They'll see headlines, they may see the subdeck, but no one's really reading articles. And editors, people who run papers know this. So they purposely put headlines. The headlines often don't match what the subtext is because the headlines are there to grab you. And they could be controversial, but actually when you read the article, you're like, well, it contradicts what it says. By the by. But what should I make as news is that when you read the news, when you watch the news, when you read newspapers or see headlines, all you see or hear is black Muslim man. Black Muslim or man. Not a black Muslim man. There's three descriptives. Black is a descriptive, Muslim is a descriptive, man is a descriptive. Black, Muslim, man. So you hear stabbing, black man, black man, black man. Or you hear stabbing Muslim, a Muslim did this, a Muslim did that, a Muslim did that. But if it's a white guy, you just say a man has committed a crime or 30-year-old has committed a crime. You don't get that same descriptive. So if you're not concentrating right, when you're growing up, you're not concentrating, all you hear is black. All you associate with crime is black Muslim, black Muslim, black Muslim. That's all you're hearing. You don't hear white man. You don't hear black Muslim white. You just hear black Muslim man. And it's it's a subtle difference. And some of you probably not. Some of this conversation will be going past some of you because it's very delicate. It's very subtle. But most of us, when we're consuming TV, we've got the kettle on, we're washing dishes, or you're talking to your friend, you're on your phone or Instagram, so you're not fully concentrating to everything that's happening around you. So you're hearing key things jump out, and when you've got the only key things you're hearing is black Muslim, when you grow up and you internalize it if you're black or Muslim, easy to internalize it, but also if you're not, you also see that and you think, blacks and Muslims do all the crimes. That's the only descriptive you hear when you hear the crime of a perpetrator of crime. So that's one thing. And then you hear about Second World War, and then you taught Second World War. I think so. So it's linked to the Second World War, linked to history in general in the UK. So I didn't hit the basic history. I didn't do like a full GC. I did do your basic histories in school. And history is taught in a very linear fashion. So this was happening, this is happening, this is happening. But you're not taught about when this was happening here, this was happening also. So it's very linear, it's not dimensional, not three-dimensional. There's no depth to it. And so you get and it's fair because we live in where we live. So to some degree it's fair. They give you a very European, white-centric version of history. So you're not understanding, unless you go out and research or go out and study it, to a higher degree, you don't know what the rest of the world were doing. You're consumed with all that was happening here. And that links to the teachings of the World War. So you got these people who grow up and they firmly believe that only white people fought in the world wars. And they don't understand that they can't link together that the fact that if Britain had a Commonwealth, don't you think they'd call in their subjugates from other parts of the world to come fight as well? And they don't understand, my granddad fought in the war, blah, blah, blah. That's the kind of rhetoric. And that's what makes that's that sense of Britishness and what have you. So there's that as well. And so that leads into certain thinking. So when you add that narrow view of history, narrow view of understanding, when you add that indoctrination about who perpetuates crime, you get a people with a certain mindset. And then you have the newspapers who demonize people, and you have the governments do things as well, who don't make things easy, because the governments know how to pull it. The governments will talk about immigration, how immigration's bad and we don't want this people, and they'll use derogative terms about migrants, what have you. But the governments also know that they need migrants to do the work that local inhabitants will not do. There's a direct link between things like Brexit and food quality and food prices in the UK. You stop people coming, you talk about migrants, stop people coming to the country, or people come to the country doing the fruit picking, the vegetable picking, they can't come anymore because you made it harder for them to come. What happens? Food goes to waste. No one's working in the farms to collect those. No one wants to do that in the UK. Similar in the UK, similar in the US. Also, I was reading this study and it looked back at it. It was based in the US, but I think it applies to UK as well. And they went back. I think it was like the 50s, maybe the 60s, when immigration laws were looser, and it said it tracked as immigration laws got stricter, the number of migrants increased, and it was a sociology thing. And they were saying the guy who wrote it was basically saying the reason why migration goes up when you make it difficult to come in is when doors are open, People seem to think people just you open. Yeah, there's terms. You open the floodgates and everyone comes in. No, what happens is this: when rules are loose, what people do is because they know they can go back and come back when they want to. They don't necessarily have to stay. So they'll come, work a bit, go back, come back, work a bit, go back. They go back and forth. But if you make it hard, if you say, right, make it really hard to come now, what happens is they get in and they're like, damn, if I leave, I may not be able to come back again. So I now got to stay. So if I've got to stay, well, my family's back over there, I've got to bring them over as well now. And that's how one of the core reasons why migration increases. If you let people come back and forth as much as they want, they actually want to stay. They'll work for a bit, instead of sending money home, they take the money back home. You'll get their output. You get there, but they'll work. They'll spend their money elsewhere, build up the old country because they spend their money back there. You make it hard for them to go back, they're going to stay. Is the UK safe for non-blacks? Sorry, non-whites. It's very safe for non-blacks. I have friends with children, and I know a number of them would rather raise their children elsewhere because the crime, especially London, a lot of knife crime in London. So you've got some boys you're worried about how they grow up. You're worried about the gangs and that sort of thing. That's a different type of safety. Because the question of safety we're talking about in this conversation is really based on your race and their local inhabitants versus your race versus intercity crime and non-racial crime, just crime for crime's sake. So I'll put that to one side. Actually, I just want to bring it into the conversation. I think what it boils down to is this. I think the UK is safe for non-white people. There will be pockets of places where you may feel uncomfortable. There are pockets of places where you may experience some more overt racism versus the covert forms of racism you may see. The UK is not perfect. I think that there are worse places to experience racism. It's a washing machine if you can hear it. If you're outside the UK, but it's not perfect. And I think some of the things that concord, and the reason why I say that is because when you look at these riots and the response to the majority who have come out, there were a couple of, I think it was last week Thursday, because this feels like ages ago, but I think it was last Thursday, these EDLs, right-wing people were planning a number of places. They'd highlighted a number of, I think it was 10 locations that were going to cause trouble. And people showed up. There was love, man. People showed up. I tried to find some pictures of, you see, places like Walthamstow and Bristol, and these Brighton, these people come in their hundreds. These races are coming in their hundreds, but the anti-racist support will come out in their tens of thousands. It was it was mad. You saw the pictures of these tens of thousands of people coming out and saying, "Yo, we don't stand for that." And that was really hot. Well, that made me feel good. That made me think that, you know what? Yes, there are elements of this, but on the whole, the UK doesn't stand for that. And so, yeah, on the whole, UK doesn't stand for that. And on the whole, you can be okay. But I'm going to caveat that because the places I mentioned were very multicultural places where you have a lot of diverse communities anyway. Not sure how that looks in a place where that it's not as diverse. So that's my caveat to that. I don't work for a tourist board, but I'm going to say to you, what I say to you is this: if you plan to come to the UK and not want to come, you'll be okay. it's as bad as there is crime everywhere, and you know, I go to Asia, and I've been to Asia, and I've had I've not been pickpocketed, but I've had my phone stolen. So I'm a moped guy, stole my phone. Happens in the UK as well. So these things happen. I know pickpockets can be rife in certain parts of Europe as well. Certain parts of Asia can have lots of pickpockets, that sort of thing. So crime is rife everywhere. I think somewhere like London, I think somewhere like Birmingham, the major cities, I think you're safe as a tourist. You don't have to walk around being scared, being afraid. Just be alert to your surroundings and what have you. Come, it's not so bad. I know it's looked rough on the TVs and the news recently. It's not so bad. It's generally an okay place to be. It's a nice place to visit. There's some nice things to look at, do, experience when you're here. Are there better places to visit? Of course. Are there worse places to visit? Of course. So yeah, I first wanted to talk to you. I may do a review later, but enjoy your weekend, guys.